the state number you used, contribution again?
The current year,
What you expect from the state?
well, that's what they're paying to Bethel. That's what Bethel will receive.
$8,157,000? Same as last year?
$8,157,837. That's this year, 0809.
What did we get last year?
$7,814,020.
And the $8,157,000, where did you get that number from? Did the state say to you, that's what we're getting?
That's this year.
It's on the state website.
It's on the state website.
It's on the state website.
What, is this before the state said they're cutting, or is this after the
Well,
state?
this is this year. I didn't project 0910 here, but what the governor has currently said, I don't know what she'll say tomorrow, but what has been currently stated is that she will flat fund education. That would mean that next year we would receive the same amount we're receiving this year.
Okay,
And those same dollars won't go as far, but it would be the same dollar, the same appropriation.
okay, so you use this $8 million in your...
Well, that's not in my budget. That's, that money is the other half of the equation. When you talk about balancing your budget, you're talking about the expenditures of all your departments, and then the revenue that comes in. And Barry Carino oversees the revenue, manages, he puts together what the revenue is. This money, it goes straight to your
Let me ask you
controller's
another
office,
one.
but it's
Okay.
to, in other words, if you have the Board of Ed expenses, your library expenses, your social services expenses, on this side of the budget, you're going to have state monies that come back to Bethel, and then whatever the difference is after all your revenues, your interest, things like that, the rest is going to be what you have to charge in taxes to balance your
I
budget.
understand.
Yeah.
But when you put your numbers together,
Yes.
did you not think of this number from the state at all, what we would get from the state? You didn't use anything in your calculation to determine if we get the same or we get less? Did it enter your thoughts at all?
Yeah, we wouldn't use it directly, Jim, but what we did when we first put it together, I can speak from when we first build the budget with the administrators, is everyone reads the paper every day. We all check with everything through CASBO, CAPS, state legislator. I mean, we've been watching what's been going on up there. We were waiting to hear what the governor would say. It costs this town typically every year somewhere between 3 3/4 to say 4 1/4 to roll everything you have forward from one year to another in education. We knew that this year would be different. And so when the superintendent first came in with his first budget, it was a 2.45%. So yes, all those thoughts did enter. We didn't know how deep to go. The current information we had was the flat funding. Knowing the flat funding, we did not come forward with a 4.14% increase. We pared it down to 2.45. The Board of Education still feels that the issues surrounding us are real and severe, and took it down to a 1.68. So yes, it entered our deliberations. It's not a number that shows in a line in our budget, but it absolutely entered our consideration.
Okay. If we get less from the state, did you enter that into your consideration as well?
I'm not certain how that will work.
You won't have enough money.
Well, it's handled on the revenue side.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so many line items on the revenue side that are down this year. We raise conveyance fees, personal property taxes, the regular taxes. We also have the money we earn on interest for the money that we have in our float through the taxes. They're all down this year. We raise about 20% of the revenue does not come per se through the property tax on your home. 20% comes from all these fees, interest that we raise, and the state. So that could be down. For every, it's approximately $2.3 million, it's $1 million. So the balance of the two.
That's at the beginning.
I'm not saying I don't understand.
well,
I mean the process. I mean the step-by-step how Bethel will
Right.
handle the meetings. Like this year,
Right.
you're short. You asked for the Board of Ed to sit with you and the Board of Selectmen, and all three boards are working together, and we are making a concerted effort to have money left at the end of the year. I would think at a minimum that would happen again, but the exact process you would follow to close that gap, you would keep us informed as to how that exactly would take place.
What do you mean?
Well, it comes in on the revenue side, so it's separate from the expenditure side. So
Right.
the actual procedural steps that you would take.
So we tell you how much revenues come in, you adjust cost accordingly.
No.
No, not at all.
I'm
That's not how
confused.
that's not how it works.
Could you please? I'm confused.
Well, I think Kevin could probably speak to it better because
Everyone submits their expense budgets. We vote, and we go to referendum on the expense side of the
Right.
town, okay?
Right.
It's then up to the Board of Finance to then solution and come up with a mill rate, which is decided after the budget passes. To come up with a mill rate, they have to look at what the spending that the town agreed to do, and they look at this at the revenue side.
Right.
They take in everything that comes in outside of property tax. What's the state going to give us? In a lot of years, it comes in a little bit higher than we anticipate, okay? And that's where the taxpayer gets a benefit
Right.
when we go
This
to
year
set the
we're
mill
saying-
rate. Well, we don't know yet. Right now, he said it's the same, 8,000,001.
No, but we're saying we're having a shortfall in revenue. We're predicting that for next year,
Right, but you're
current year.
That's correct, but that goes into setting the mill rate. What's going to happen is you normally anticipate that property taxes will be received at 99%. You may decide that because there has been a shortfall this year, that you'll anticipate collecting them at 97.5%.
Right.
So that goes into solutioning the revenue side. So you say, well, I'm going to be 700,000 short from normal because of the percentages. So that goes into determining what the mill rate's going to be. So where you may have a flat spending budget, your mill rate may go up 1 mil. You may decide it's going to be a 4%.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to
Increase.
We may not
That's
have a flat spending, we may have a decreased spending.
That is correct.
So the mill
They
rate
are
goes
separate.
down. That's what I'm trying to point out. It's not automatic that the mill rate's going up because the revenue is going to be short, or the revenue,
Well, the mill rate will go up if the revenue is short.
well, if we don't adjust it.
Well, that's the only thing you got to adjust, other than, once you set spending,
Well, we can assume if the revenue is short next year, that in the budget presentation, you could take all the budgets and zero them out and say that's going to make up for the shortfall for next year of revenue.
That won't do it.
That
no,
won't do
that's
it.
not it. No,
What'll happen then is you will still have to tax the people,
that's right.
all right? In order to get it where you don't have to tax the people any more than you are right now, you have to really be
Below.
below.
Okay.
You would have to come in $1 million below spending year over year in order to be able to preserve yourself and know that you can solution the revenue side with a zero tax increase.
And if you do get a windfall from the state,
It helps
if in
offset it.
fact they stay at zero
Right.
and give us the same thing, or, and I doubt very much that you get a little bit more, you can adjust that later on. But I will tell you this, on the revenue side, it's at the point where our dog licenses are cut in half. And I don't know if they're giving them away, I don't know if they're eating them, or I don't know if they're not paying them. But our dog licenses are exactly 50% what they were last year. And that's just the way things, that's a ridiculous statement, but it's not that ridiculous, because that's where we are. It's actuality, a snapshot in this minute of time.
And that's the quandary we're in with coming up with a budget by the time of the town meeting, if we don't know what the state is going to be giving us. That's the quandary. I mean, we talked about the governor was going to leave it the same, but I believe you've met Bill and some of your colleagues with the deputy majority leader of the House, the State Assembly, Mr. Godfrey, who painted a different picture.
It was not reassuring.
Which was a very disappointing meeting. When you gather all of the boards of ed from this area and have 1 out of 5 show up when we had a message that needed to be taken back to Hartford with some ideas on how to make a dramatic impact on the cost of education in town. And they didn't get back.
But the man who painted the picture has been there a while, and he's a person of influence. He's a deputy majority leader in the state assembly, so the words that he had are worth considering, I would say.
But he also had some personal opinions on when we suggested that this may be the year that we have 175 days rather than 180 days of school, which would have saved us $750,000. And he suggested the kids ought to be going to school 190 days. So, 4 days, not less days.
Well, I have another budget question.
Can I just say something?
Yeah, sure.
Contextually. When we put our budget together, we were very well aware of surrounding economics. We're all working people, or most of us. And in very flush times, we would have looked at our 4.14% going forward. We promised each other a science teacher this year, which we really need, which we cut out of last year's budget. We would have probably put that on. We would have jockeyed things around and maybe come out with a request of 4. That was not feasible. So we looked at the budget. We looked from the function out. What do we have to preserve and what can we possibly put off? And that's where we came. We came from the inside out. We didn't come from looking at the ECS. We came from what we want to preserve, what programs are meaningful, and what programs are worthwhile. So that's how we came to our budget.
It was also not feasible to take rumor and say we're going to get 12% less in ECS or 15% less in ECS and transpose that down into further dramatic cuts in this system, because we don't know. And we won't know for a while.
Unfortunately, you don't really have to know. The Board of Finance that has to know. And that's the quandary we may be in, and we have to set a budget. I wanted to ask a couple questions, if the budget questions, if I could. On the 392.95, you know, of
Head count?
Yeah,
FTEs, yes.
how many of those, does that correspond to the number of people who are getting benefits? Or benefit positions? Is there any way of knowing?
No, I don't.
Could you find us that number, the number of people who are receiving benefits in the, you know, on the payroll, I guess you could say?
Okay.
Because that's what, 30% on top of the salary, basically, benefits.
Well,
25.
depending on what.
Yeah. But that's one question. Another question I had, I went over the superintendent's proposed budget, and then the final budget that the Board of Ed passed the other night. I had one question on the summer school. On page 31 of the superintendent's proposed budget, on 39, there's a figure that says total cost of the summer school is $89,479. But in the final version on page 20, it says the total cost of the summer school is $121,457. So that's a difference of $31,78. I just wondered what the reason.
The difference is how much? 3,000?
No, $31,978.
The difference would be the director's salary.
So I see. So
Because
that.
I have to include all costs in the actual budget.
But it wasn't in the initial.
I think the
budget.
costs that were compiled were just the program costs.
I see. So that includes the director's salary.
Correct.
Where's the
That's what
director's
the
salary?
That's the 31.
I believe that's correct. Can you tell me what page it is?
The superintendent's proposed budget, page
No.
31,
Okay.
89,479, the big, the thick one here. And then on the page of the white one, I believe is page 20, I've written down.
Can you sum up?
Page 20.
Page 20?
It's listed at $121,457.
Page 20.
Total summer school on top.
Page
20.
Page 19.
Or 19.
Page
19 bottom.
Yes, the other staff is listed there. So you're going to get very close. One was an analysis to try to display the program costs, but on page 19, you'll see the other staff,
Okay, and other staff is what? Who is that?
the director.
Why don't you call it director? Why do you put other staff?
That's one person at this 28,000. The difference.
No, it's 32.
Yes, that would be, there might be a little bit more in there. I'd have to pull it apart, but it's mostly one person.
No, I mean, it just, the first document said total cost and seemed to be very definitive, and I see.
I believe that was an analysis of the
Okay.
programs.
See, the other one's 31,978 is a big difference.
Yeah.
Terry, question. Just to get back to one of the big things that you're taking advantage of is the separation incentive.
Yes.
What is that incentive? And, well, how many people are you anticipating?
I anticipated a savings of about, if you replace, there's an average savings of 20,000 per person. So 180 would be 9.
So you're anticipating 9 retirees?
That's with replacement.
Right, but I'm
Well,
saying that you've got a savings of 142,000, so to get
And there was
there.
already 40 in another line, so it's about 180 for the turnover savings. and
So
stuff like that.
you're anticipating 9 retirees?
And we really can't
I-
base that on anything.
No, I know, but
Okay.
I'm just saying, because
Yes.
that number is important, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
With
you're
replacement.
with replacement, and that delta is a savings of 142,000.
Right.
Now, on top of the 9 retirees, they also get their sick time paid to them over
I
3
factored-
years.
I
Is that factored in?
That's factored in.
And an average, of those 9 people, an average person would get, what, 60, 70,000 in sick time that's paid off over 3 years?
It can be up to, I think, half of the days, so 90 days. Yeah, it's around there. It comes out to about that.
Right. But you factored that in?
I have everything factored
Okay,
in.
okay. So, but it's 9 people that you're hoping for?
9 if you replace all 9. 9 with replacements.
Okay, but that's how much you used?
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
I would have thought more. Mr. Slipkin?
Yeah, I've got a couple for you, Terry.
Yeah.
Last year, I had asked you for responsibilities of the secretaries, and you gave it to us this year, and I wanted to compliment you on that.
Dr. Chesley actually made sure he re-included that, so
Oh,
I won't take
that was very helpful. My question...
I will say, Bill, and not that it has anything to do with, I had a personal issue going on in December and January,
Right.
and actually Dr. Chesley compiled most of that informational
Well,
data.
Thank you, Dr. President. My question then would be, you left out the central office and fiscal services, because I
Oh,
assume you
they're
have some... They're not in the orange section that you
Oh,
gave
they're not in
us?
the orange section?
If they are, I missed it, so I don't think it's there.
Okay.
So if you could
Yes,
make a note on that.
yes.
And then my other questions are, in fiscal services, you have, I think, 5.65 people, I think.
Okay.
And in IT, you have whatever the number is. I can't find them in the when you go through the W-2s and everything and see who the people are. So if you could
Okay.
give us a list of those people,
Okay.
just so I can figure out the head count and how
Okay.
you got to it.
Okay.
And then in custodian overtime,
Yes.
in the 07-08 budget for the 5 schools, you budgeted $40,400.
Yes.
You know where I'm going.
We were way over.
Yeah, you're $104,821.
Yes. Yes.
And then this year, you budgeted $40,000 again, and next year you budget $41,000. So what was the aberration?
Well-
And maybe you could tell us where we are now on
There are some
overtime?
things, and I that we just absorb, and we find a way to absorb. Our buildings are community buildings. In the past, we've been able to keep them open a lot and have them available for after-hour programs and other parts of town's programs. We have very little non-municipal programs. They're mainly either Park and Rec or us after hours. This year, once we met with the Board of Finance in December, overtime is stopped. You will see some overtime come through in the actuals for 08-09. If you'll remember, Bill, that we had some vandalism issues
Yeah.
at the high school, And as a joint effort, we agreed that we would keep someone on till 11 at night, and the building project covered from 11 to, so we just had to make sure we had someone in the building 24/7 for a short while. So that will fall through to that
So
area.
you're saying that 100,000 is really an aberration and it's not going to reoccur?
Well, I don't think it'll occur this year. In other years, we've just absorbed it somewhere in our budget, because in some cases, our estimates run over. And with the construction going on at the high school, we had a lot of overtime there. Activities throughout the town and the schools got pushed to our other buildings, and so we had more overtime in other buildings that we normally wouldn't have had in other buildings.
Middle school was the
Middle
one
school
that got
took the
impacted.
brunt of, yeah. So I'm hoping that'll level back. I had some discussions, and I know we have to meet with Eileen Earl, and we have to figure out timing with Park and Rec programs and things like that. I mean, I'm trying not to absorb everything, but I understand that our buildings are town buildings, and in the past, we opened them for programs. But we'll have to work out what will be more feasible going forward, because we've tightened up an awful lot of lines in our budget, and I can't absorb that kind of overrun again, whereas in the past, when things came up, we absorbed it.
Okay.
Terry, where did we reflect, I believe we had a couple custodians that were out with health problems, and we needed to cover their work.
We have one out on workers' comp, and because we get back the workers' comp payment, we did hire a temporary service to fill in. We had the other one that was out and still on sick time. If I brought in, normally in a year, we would bring somebody in to cover that. Because, again, I keep going back to that meeting with the Board of Finance, but we've been trying to do without, because we're trying not to go too heavy. If we have an opportunity to try to pull some money back for the end of the year, that's what we're doing. I mean, we're consciously making those decisions.
Yeah. Would you go to page 20? And this is just a general question. The supervisor of information technology, if you follow his salaries across, they're at one number, and then when you go to the W-2s, they're about 35,000 less. Can you explain that to me? Yeah, which, it's normal. I can't figure it out. That's why I'm asking you. Normally, it might be the other way around because of all the ads for different things.
The person in this position, I want to try to not get too personal, but the person in this position would be a very long-time teacher. Teachers hired before a certain date don't participate in either Social Security or Medicare. They're exempt from both.
And why do you budget the higher number?
Well, what we pay is what we pay. But it doesn't show up on W-2s.
Then where does it show up? Your W-2 is your tax information.
Is your tax information. But if you are an employee, say you were an IRS agent, and you were and the IRS agents as a whole opted out of the Social Security program here in the United States, and were allowed to at one point. So their W-2 looks different than your corporate W-2. And for teachers hired before a certain date, they're not in the Medicare system, and they're not in the Social Security system. They are in the state retirement system, so the numbers might be part of the difference. Medical might be part of the difference. I mean,
could you check that for me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one.
But I have to budget the full amount we're going to pay.
Mr. Regan,
Terry, I got a question regarding on page 3, the 1218 salary account for custodians. The $1,049,977 proposed budget for oncoming year. Does that include overtime? On your individual school and the itemization of the schools, it's separated.
I believe the overtime is rolling into that.
I did the calculation, and it looks like it goes in there, but I just wanted to clarify that.
I believe it's rolling into that line.
The question I have, or let me make this point, is that when you go, and this only covers the 5 schools? 5 schools and 23 custodians?
Correct.
Okay. If you go down through each school and you total up that amount, it comes about, this amount is overstated by $3,399. So if you took the 5 schools and you looked at the budget amount that each school is going to budget for that account, all right, it comes out to straight salary, $1,004,778, and with overtime, which is another $41,800, the total expenditure would be $1,046,578. The amount you have on your summary page in the front is $1,049,977.
The difference could be longevity, but I'll have to check.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm just wondering if there's something else in there that wasn't calculated.
So it could be in the...
Yeah, it's minor, but it's $3,000, $4,000. That's the only question I have.
Yeah, the numbers seem close, so I think
Right.
they're going to round to longevity.
Okay.
I'd like to get back to the medical benefits, that
Yes.
compensation in lieu of benefits. Do you have a written policy on that?
No.
Board of Ed.
Yes.
Um,
Is it in your policy manual?
I don't believe so.
Do you think you should have one?
What is this again?
Written policy.
On what?
Or payment of in lieu of benefits.
In lieu of health benefits you're referring to, correct, Jim?
Yes.
Contractual. Yeah, I would not include that in the policy.
They're not gonna put that in the policy.
That in the judgment of the board to...
Their own deals.
You think you'd have a problem if someone else wanted that? You don't have a written policy about it? Someone says, well, he's got it, why can't I get it?
You've got positive.
It's something you would have to handle.
Insurance.
Yeah, I don't think that would...
I was just curious, because you have written policies about so many things, about all kinds of compensation packages, you know, professional and paraprofessional and union and non-union. And this one, to me, is kind of like a big thing there. And it would seem to me you would want to have that in writing somewhere to protect you, protect us, protect the town, just so everybody knew what the policy was. Instead of having it on an individual basis, you have a blanket policy. It is offered or it is not, based on a contractual agreement.
Most of the policies we have transcend either the 7 unions that we deal with or a much larger group. You're talking about a contractual item here.
Talking about compensation.
Quite a policy for
Talking
one
about
person.
compensation to an individual, when you have many individuals working in the system, and what you give to one, under certain laws, can be given to others. And I'm just saying, if you have a written policy, it would probably protect you and protect us.
I personally would prefer
Maybe
to
we could check
negotiate that based on the individual circumstance.
This year's budget here for 2009-10 is based on how many school days?
The same we have now. There's,
Yeah, well, how many? 180?
we pay teachers for 186 days.
Okay, so their contract is 186.
Their contract is
Okay,
186.
that's all.
What's required by state law?
180.
180 student days are
Right.
required. And then there are professional development days.
Is that required by state law?
I don't know the answer to that. Yes, there are professional development days required by law.
Terry, I have just one more question.
Yes.
When you worked in New Fairfield,
Yes,
you worked with the Consolidated Finance Department.
yes.
How did that work out?
It had good and it had bad. And I've gone through, because you know I'm friendly with Jay Waterman. Yeah. So he and I did sit one day and do numbers, and it doesn't change the head count. We have the same number of people, they have the same number of positions and people, maybe some functions are rearranged a little bit, but we do have the same FTE, whether you had them separate or together, because I was curious as to how that would come out. With one difference. New Fairfield has a student activity bookkeeper but she is housed at the high school. I have a student activity bookkeeper that is housed in the business office. And for internal control purposes, I much prefer the way we have it here.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I have a request for you. Do you do a monthly balance sheet or a monthly ledger sheet?
No, we do the quarterly,
You do a quarterly?
we do the quarterly statements that you get a copy of.
Okay, you don't do anything monthly, on a monthly basis?
No.
Okay. I'm just curious, if you did, I'd like to.
You know,
get a copy.
it's different than in the corporate world. We only expend. But there's not a lot of revenue except maybe a few grants, but we really track expenditures. We're payroll and payables and then all the state reporting requirements, federal reporting requirements, you know, IRS, well, those normal things. But it's not like putting together a balance sheet, because we don't really have
No,
a
just-
balance sheet. We have pretty much a P&L, and it's only a P&L.
Just monitor where you are, it's a snapshot in time.
And that's what
That's
we
what we're
do.
looking for.
We do that the 5 times a year.
Mhm. That's all.
Yeah. Even when you look at the ED-01, it doesn't mirror financial statements. I mean, the only financial statements truly are the financial statements that you get for the town of Bethel, which just has the Board of Education as a department, an expenditure department.
Anyone else? We are going to have the 460 account, is that correct?
Yes.
I don't know if Mr. Morawski's here. I told him to report at 8:30. We're pretty close to that. Obviously, we have a lot of people here.
No more
But I think if we
questions,
take a break, Mr. Morawski is here, I'm getting twinkle fingers through the door.
If I could say one thing before we close. My door's always open. If you want me to, Mr. Regan, if you want me to give you a call after I check that,
Yeah, if you
what number
could.
can I reach you at?
792-7253. That'd be
Any,
great.
you're always welcome
Thank you.
to come upstairs, stop in my office. You know, I'm happy to pull out the paperwork and get on the computer and get you answers anytime you
I
need.
did write down what I asked you about the numbers.
I did. FTE versus number taking benefits. Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Morawski,
Yes.
proceed with vigor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burke.
Or Mr. Duff or Mr. Kingston, somebody proceed with vigor. Torpedoes are in the water, we're running straight and hot.
Okay, I'll just go over the numbers real quick. We'll talk first about the way this budget was prepared. I got a little bit more involved, Public Works got a lot more involved with preparing this budget this year. The way that we did it was, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. There's no sense in doing that, but I wanted to get myself involved in putting this budget together. I asked, after meeting with Mike Duff and Bob Germanaro, we agreed that the initial budget will be prepared, recommended budget will be prepared by Bob Germanaro, submitted to Public Works, then we would take a look at it and adjust the numbers as we saw fit, bring it back to the Board of Ed side, and come to an agreement on what the numbers should be. And this is the best we could do, given especially given the current economic circumstances. I'd like to do more on the capital side, but I understand we're trying to keep the budget as flat as possible, if not lower it a little bit.
If I could interrupt at this point in your presentation, Andrew, as this board may or may not know, last year we basically reorganized our Public Works side, and it presented a savings in last year of over $20,000, carrying that forward through this year and into next year. And with it being handled this way, it's much more consolidated. Nothing falls through the cracks anymore. We don't have duplicative effort. We're still working out some of the kinks in it, but I've been very pleased with it so far, and our maintenance situation and our capital going forward in our systems town-wide is much better than it has been in the past, with the savings.
I was going to ask that question, how that was coming along.
Excellent.
So it's good, Jack.
It's all about the best possible product for the least possible price. Sorry, Mr. Barrage.
No problem at all. The 460 account's broken down into three subcategories, four if you want to include the blanket POs and the outside contractor funding. Blanket POs just covers things like paint, light bulbs, electrical parts, plumbing parts, and that's the number there is a halfway between what was approved in 07 and 08 and what was approved for this fiscal year. I thought that was an appropriate target to shoot for, bumping it up a little bit, given the fact that we'll probably be doing less capital, and we've also got the high school coming online. It's not going to be under reconstruction next fiscal year. It's going to be a living, breathing building that we've got to take care of. So I thought it would be appropriate to bump that up a little bit. Outside contractor funding covers emergency repairs for the most part to HVAC, any electrical system, drain clogs, and any other service that might be needed on a relatively speaking emergency basis. The building services covers alarm monitoring, elevator repair service, rodent control, pest and rodent control, clocks, intercom, etc. The numbers that you see here are for the most part based on quotes we've received from prospective vendors. So we don't know if this is going to be exactly this number, but we're pretty comfortable with what we've got. The boil and hot water heater service, I bumped that up quite a bit this year just because I wanted to get more of a more comprehensive preventive maintenance program going on those. We've had a number of issues with some of the boilers recently with leaks coming out, and who knows what's causing it all, but I thought it was appropriate to get a little bit more in depth with our preventive maintenance on the boilers. And it went through with one of our trusted contractors. I sent him through with one of my building maintainers. He looked at all the systems, gave me a fair price of what he thought it would take to do a startup, a shutdown, and a mid-season check as well. That's basically what you see there. The $15,000 should cover the 5 school buildings. Let's see. Then we also have water treatment service for the boilers and hot water system. The energy management would be temperature control, handling the sequencing of the pumps and the boilers. Mechanical HVAC, I also bumped that up to a higher level, and again, that's in large part due to bringing the high school online, and also to address some of the issues that the technician from the mechanical service company has indicated that have come up. That sometimes he doesn't have everything accounted for in his preventive maintenance contract, and he'll indicate that he can't do something because it's not in his contract and there's no additional money to be, well, you could look for it, but if it's not in his contract, it's not in his contract. And this would allow for the occasional replacement of a part that isn't necessarily covered by the wear and tear aspect of the annual contract. Lawn care, that dropped down to 0.
Who's handling it? Is it our Park and Rec now?
Park and Rec is here. Okay. If you recall last year, we removed our outside contractors, and we've done the same amount of work with our park and rec.
That's good.
And they've done an excellent job.
They will go beyond the athletic fields. They will do the entire educational park.
Right. They've been doing the entire, for a whole year, Larry.
Yeah.
You may not be aware of that, but last year at this time, well, you weren't on the board at that point.
They come right up.
We took the outside runway contractor out. It was a savings to the town of $30,000. And you tell me how it looks up there. I think we're doing an excellent job. Do you agree?
Wait till all the snow and dirt.
How about the fall? Were the leaves picked up sufficiently?
I can't think back that far.
You're not that old yet.
And playground gym equipment inspection service drops to $0 from $6,000. That Bob Germanaro made the call. Our insurance company will be picking that up on the just part of the policy. So that's a nice savings there. And then the last item there under 313 roofing repair contract service. This is something I'm really excited about because it's a
The roofs won't leak anymore.
The Silktown Roofing was brought in to perform this service this year, and what they do is they have their staff, they send the same two guys to inspect the roofs twice a year, and they keep the roofs in warranty. They know what to look for. They perform repairs as needed. For the most part, in the first year we had, I think Bill Slipkin can speak to how much they spent at the high school doing some repairs, but we found a bunch of issues that were cropping up at Rockwell School that were all covered.
That was done at the same time as the high
It
school.
was all covered under warranty though, so we didn't have to pay anything out of pocket for that. And that was a real problem there, as the guys from Silktown showed me. I think at the last, at my 260 presentation, I brought you the snapshots of the website that show what a comprehensive job they do. They give you pictures. Every time they go out to look at the roof, they take a new batch of pictures, they post them on the website so you can see what's going on. They have all the warranty information is on the website. Any inspection or any warranty work that they have to do, it's all posted there. So it's a single spot to a repository of that information for something that's, the roofs are practically the most important part of the building, because if the roof fails, your building's in trouble.
Yeah.
And they're worth millions and millions of dollars, and I think, $11,000 is money really well spent.
That's the all five? Or?
That's for all 5 schools.
Okay.
Point of information, we have several roofs that over the last 10 years, we paid money to have done. There's warranties on that roof, and nobody has been calling in the contractor when we get a leak. And this is where we've been negligent in our maintenance situations with our schools. And at this point, Mr. Borowski taking care of the 460 account and all our buildings, being our Director of Public Works, Mr. Dibble. We're doing an excellent job moving forward. $11,000 is an investment to save large amounts of money. That's exactly, as you well know, Paul, I'm
No.
sad on how many roofs.
Too many, yeah.
So the fact that pitch pockets and the little things that don't get done that are handled under this type of a thing. How much did we spend on roofs, Mr. Gallagher? $1 million? $2 million?
A lot of money in the bank.
$11,000 is a reasonable investment.
Andrew, I can tell you that I think the written policy that you put in place with Dibble is long overdue. I think a result of the high school renovation, what we've gone through, fixing everything, the roof contract, the boiler contract, will save the town a significant amount of money over the years. For example, we spent $80,000 to fix the roof. That was not originally budgeted, but we spent $80,000 to fix the roof on the high school. We spent $60,000 to replace tiles that were all full of water. The total maintenance items that we had to fix in the high school was $271,000 as part of the renovation.
Which was not part of the spec.
Yeah.
No, we had to
Over and above.
fix items that were broken. So I think this policy is long overdue, and I commend you for it. And I thank you guys for your help when you walk through it, too.
Let's get on with the budget here. I think we're about almost to the end of the 460 here. Not quite to the end.
Not quite.
We'll get on with that.
And moving on to the recommended capital building projects, I know there's about $76,000 worth of items identified here. I won't go through them all, but I wanted to mention two things that are not on this list that I've talked about with Mike Duff, and one of them is and this is related to Connecticut's budget woes, is the security system, because apparently there was a grant for $185,000 to implement all the components of the security system for the high school
This year.
this year. And as part of Governor Rell's recent budget adjustments, that money is no longer there.
We were awarded the grant, and then last week it was taken away.
Oh, boy.
May I inject? The building committee in their foresight has wired and obtained the cameras for an excellent security system at our high school. Considering we have millions, $33 million that I invested in. The grant would have enabled us to complete the project. Well, the grant's not there, but the problem still exists. How do you prevent mischief from happening at the high school? The camera system is a great deterrent to any vandal who may think it humorous to plug up a sink and flood it, or someone who wants to paint slogans on walls. But more so, it is a method that would stop the type of mischief that would cause physical harm to our students. And we have to address this. It's something that is in the budget. No, it can't be in the budget because that grant and the money invested would have been spent this year. The problem will exist into next year. We have the wiring installed, which is really a smart move. Got the cameras, but there's more work to be done. And I believe that we have to be looking for approximately $180,000 to finish the project. That's good. And I think we all should be aware of that.
I think we get away with about 100.
Maybe.
But, I mean, 100, 180, you know. Yeah, give or take.
What I took the liberty of doing is kind of recapping with a suggestion on how we may address this, either out of the town surplus fund or into next year's budget. This kind of recaps put together for other school systems. He did a research, came forward with a recommendation. We have enough people on that building committee who have the either technical or building expertise to make sure that this was the program and the security system that we needed. Cost was a primary consideration. You could go, according to Mr. Trippi, from $500,000 down to $50,000, all depending on what it is you wanted to do. But the secondary considerations we had was we need to know who's coming in that school and who may be leaving that school. And we need to be able to credential people and keep people out that don't belong there. We need to be able to, in the evening, have the police department identify the fact that someone's in that building, and the camera system allows us to do that. And if we get involved in another episode of vandalism, we need to be able to identify positively who the perpetrators are. because right now, the police work that we're doing, the CSI work that we're doing, and we did find a vandalism issue in one of the girls' bathrooms, and through hard police work by the assistant principals, checking journals that students were keeping, we were able to identify markings in writing, and those parents have been asked to make restitution to the school system for the damage that their children has done. But it's a lot easier to get that if you have a picture. We know where you were, and we know what you were doing.
Is it your suggestion that this be put in the 460 account this year? Is that what you're...
I think, from my perspective, there's two ways to deal with this. Either to get this going now, because we've already done this pre-work, pre-wiring before we put the ceiling tiles back in place and installing the cameras, they're all ready to go. That we either take the money out...
Before tonight, Mr. Slifton?
The grant being refused? Absolutely not. No one told us.
When did you find out that the grant was...
That was public last week.
Nobody told the chairman of the...
Well, you all were there, so I don't know why you didn't hear it.
Where was I?
I mean, at the present time, we're still building it. So I don't know where their budget is right now. I'm sure Mr. Slifkin would be definitely...
I wasn't here.
Okay, well, whoever was there heard it. Because I asked the question...
Because I was not made aware of that.
And Terry Odetsky answered that question at the meeting that we had on the 19th.
See, I was not made aware of that last week. It would have been helpful if I knew about it too, because I certainly would have called Mr. Slifkin.
My assumption was that those in the room heard that.
I wasn't in the room.
The problem does exist.
Well, and we're well aware of it.
And
But the purpose here tonight is the 460 account.
I agree. It would end up in your capital school building section.
No, it's really the sense of urgency that you have. Because this is like going up to the crap tables at Mohegan Sun, putting down a bet that you're not going to have a personal injury problem that's going to cost you $1 million through a lawsuit and legal fees.
Larry, let me ask a question.
Or that you're going to have a kid, as they did in Danbury, set off the sprinkler system and cause another $250,000 worth of damage.
Well, we had somebody throw a plug in a sink and it cost $308,000.
Right.
Yeah, crazy.
This $185,000 that you're talking about, this hasn't been put out to bid. Is this an estimate at this time?
That is, and Bill can help me with this, because as I put this together, this was my guess at what the total number would be. And Bill would have to help, because he understood, working with Gary Feld and Bob Trippi, what the cost of the program that was being recommended and that the building committee unanimously agreed needed to be done. They need to subtract the work that's already been done.
Yeah, there's 55 cameras,
Okay.
65 that have been ordered for about $55,000. We spent about $35,000 or $40,000 to pre-wire,
Yeah.
because the ceilings were open.
Right.
It would have been another $30,000 to rip the
reopen.
ceilings down and reopen it and put it back up. So you're probably looking at $100,000 for the software.
Plus, none of this, Paul, was ever spec'd.
Right.
None of it was in the original
only thing, it was never mentioned, the building committee in its wisdom had asked several times, and it was told to the building committee it was not needed at that point.
Mr. Ellis,
Obviously, we're in a different
anything the
world
police
today.
department can do?
I do agree with that it's needed. That's why we went forward with it.
That's at one meeting. I'm sorry, Bill.
That's why,
This would be wired directly into the police department?
well, Mr. Slifkin and Mr. Trippi went forward with this in the building committee, in their wisdom, and we've got a good building committee, thank God. Lord knows it took us long enough to get where we needed to be.
I agree.
And we get ready to cut a ribbon.
Go ahead.
We need to, look into it through the building committee. It's not a 460
I didn't know about it.
account
Okay, the
situation.
research included input from the police department and a number of sources that would be affected by this.
The police department was never contacted, or the officer in
Well,
high school.
this is about the 460 account, it's
Well,
not public
Jim
comment?
had asked me.
I had asked him a question.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I think you need to check that out.
Well, he's the chairman of the police commission.
Input was provided.
We got a lot of input from the police department, and they're heavily involved in this.
Well, that's through Senator, not through the chief.
So Larry, the police department would monitor the security?
My understanding, and I don't know if this is where we are, that a squad car pulls up and...
You know, before we go any farther with the security system and your understanding of how it works, we don't want to publicize this for the general public as to how our security works, because it leaves it wide open to let somebody screw with our system. I mean, I think that's a wise idea not to talk about how it works at this point.
Okay, let's continue with the numbers. On the capital school building repairs project, high school, second item there, is that a new desk, or it says to install one computer line drop and one electrical outlet to the reception desk to be installed in the lobby?
Yep. Bob Germano.
Was spec'd?
No, sir. That's part of the entry as you come in. Part of the security system is going to have an attendance desk. And with that attendance desk, would have a security drop, a data drop, and electrical drop for that desk.
So you have to pull the lines for the computer and the electrical?
Yeah. The good thing about this particular location is it's on the other side of the wall. All those services exist.
This wasn't mentioned to anybody 2 years ago when we were going forward?
But regardless, it's not even the only cost associated with it is parts and the labor.
Big item.
So it's pretty minor amount.
It is the main credentialing location, so that people can have access to the high school and egress.
That part of the building is completed already, correct? From a construction point of view? Okay.